Hi everybody, I'm John Campea. I'm the senior editor of AMC Entertainment's Script to Screen. Well, it was the equivalent of waking up to ESPN and hearing the news that Kobe Bryant has been traded from the LA Lakers. Yesterday, Sony Pictures dropped a bomb on the film fan community, announcing that arguably the most successful film franchise in the history of the comic book genre has indeed come to an end. Spider-Man 4 has been canceled, and with it comes the end of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man era. Apparently the differences in the split between Sam Raimi and the studio came over irreconcilable differences regarding the script. Some of the issues being rumored are: who should be the villain? The number of villains. Apparently Sony Studios wanted multiple villains, Sam Raimi wanted to stick with one. The release date became an issue, as reportedly, Sam Raimi just could not meet the 2011 summer release date that Sony wanted. Also, the budget was an issue. Sam Raimi reportedly wanted somewhere in a $300 million range budget. Sony Studios wanted something closer to $200 million. Sony also announced that while one Spider-Man franchise was ending, a new one would begin, and that a brand new Spider-Man franchise, under a new director, with new cast and new story, and Peter Parker being back in high school, would be coming in 2012. Now, while it's not unheard of that a comic book franchise would reboot itself relatively early, such as in the case of The Incredible Hulk, to put it into perspective, The Incredible Hulk, the original Hulk film, made just under $250 million worldwide. In comparison, the first Spider-Man film made over $800 million, coming in at $821 million worldwide. Spider-Man 2 made $783 million worldwide, and Spider-Man 3 made $890 million worldwide, adding to the shock of the surprise that Sony has decided to walk away from this franchise. Earlier today, I took some time to talk to some of the industry's leading online film pundits to get their reaction to this news.
Yeah, it's a surprise initially to see a studio scrap an entire production and decide to go in a completely different direction, and to go in a completely different direction immediately. It seems like they want to get started on Plan B kind of quickly.
I was very surprised that Sam Raimi and the rest of the cast are not going to be back for the fourth film. Even with all the production problems, and as we all know, the script problems in the studio and Sam Raimi not agreeing on certain things, you figure with a franchise that's made this much money, it's all going to work out somehow for the last chapter.
It was pretty obvious that things were not going smoothly and that there was a conflict between Sam Raimi and what the studio wanted as far as the screenplay, so no, I wasn't surprised.
Part of me was surprised and part of me wasn't surprised. The delays and the production problems they did not sit well with me. I thought that they would hammer it out eventually and figure out what they were going to do. As it kept getting delayed and delayed, I felt a little unsettled, and I think everybody, part of them thought this announcement was going to come, but you have that thought, but you don't think it's ever really going to happen, and it did. I was partly surprised, I was partly not surprised. I know the studio was having a lot of issues, I think, with all the fan reaction to Spider-Man 3. I feel like it really got in their head. And so they were I think they thought they knew what the fans wanted. I think Sam Raimi thought he knew what the fans wanted. And I'm sensing there was a clash there that just couldn't be rectified.
A lot of people weren't thrilled with Spider-Man 3, you may have heard.
I personally, I hated Spider-Man 3.
That might be one of the interesting things in this entire situation, is if I feel like there was some sort of urgency for Raimi to kind of answer for what went wrong with Spider-Man 3.
I was a little surprised that they want to reboot it so quickly. We're not that far removed from the first Spider-Man film. We're not that far removed from the last Spider-Man film. And it's just, seeing an origin story all over again, I just wonder how that's gonna work with people and fans who've already seen that.
I think people across the board on all of my sites are pretty unhappy about a reboot. It's been done. It wasn't done that long ago, and honestly, I think people are getting tired of everything getting remade 10 years after they did it the first time. And look at the Hulk. The Hulk. How many years between those two? I don't know. I think across the board fans are pretty unhappy with the relaunch. My
only concern is that they're going to redo the origin story. I think they need to do maybe what they did with the second Hulk movie, and if they want to do it in the opening credits, and let's just go into the story with him as Spider-Man already and just get on with it.
And the fact is, no one needs to see this origin again. We're talking mid-American people who don't like comic books know the story of Peter Parker. We don't need, but Vic that's an excellent point, by the way. If they handle it where, as you just said, 90 seconds in, we already know the origin, it's told very quickly, and maybe he's a senior in high school and he's dealing with being Spider-Man and going into the city and fighting crime, and there's ways of taking it. Look, I like the idea of a gritty Spider-Man movie. I mean, that sounds exciting to me. The Batman Begins take on it, because Sam Raimi wouldn't have gone in that direction. Again, it comes down to who is directing this film.
I think the reaction is pretty much how it's been everywhere else. I think it's mixed. I think some people think it's a really good idea because they hated Spider-Man 3 or they hated the entire franchise, and I think there are a lot of people that really dig the whole Batman thing and the whole darker thing, and so they want every comic book franchise now to be rebooted just like Batman. But I think, and then some people, they don't like it. They kind of were a little invested in this franchise. They weren't ready to say goodbye to Sam Raimi, and they weren't ready to say goodbye to Tobey Maguire. And I think they maybe, after being a little bit disappointed with Spider-Man 3, maybe they wanted to see if they could redeem themselves and go out on a nice note. I think I was looking forward to that.
What I'm not enthusiastic about is, I guess, the motivations behind the reboot, in terms of, I guess, Sony had wanted more villains into the fourth one. They wanted to pack it, which was one of the main problems with the third one. I know part of the reason they want to get this done quickly is because they want to keep retaining the rights to Spider-Man so that they don't default back to Marvel/Disney now.
This is a massive franchise that they want to reboot, essentially. The other thing is the rights that they own are from Marvel, and if they don't move the property forward, I believe there's obviously some sort of contracts that they have to start moving forward or filming or whatever the thing is in the contract for them to keep the rights. And with the amount of money they make off this property, they're going to keep the rights. So ultimately, I believe we're going to find out a lot of information over the next month to 3 months, as far as director, as far as star, and also apparently the studio has a screenplay that they, I guess, like.
I come to it with sort of a different perspective than most people. I'm a huge World of Warcraft player. And when I heard the announcement that Raimi was doing World of Warcraft, I was pretty thrilled because I had just seen Drag Me to Hell, and I cover BlizzCon, and I'm kind of excited that it's not happening. Not happy about the reboot, although really I'm willing to give anything a try.
I think it's a good idea. I think that, in my mind, I'm an older guy, and I've read Spider-Man for years, even though it's not my favorite comic, but I've always pictured Spider-Man as a younger character, and by the time that they got around to shooting Spider-Man 4, Maguire would be 36.
It could be a very good thing. I didn't like Spider-Man 3 at all. I loved Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 1 was, a decent setup, and I'm interested to see. I'd like to see them take it in a different direction. Do a period piece. Put Spider-Man in the 60s or something like that. Do something interesting with it. But I think it's not interesting if they're just going to go back and tell the same story in the same setting over again with different people involved. That's not interesting to me. It would be interesting if they did something unique with it.
So it seems like most fan reaction will actually come once a director and cast are named. Until that time, we'll just have to wait and see. For AMC Entertainment and Script to Screen, my name's John Campea.